I can't say I'm neutral because I'm loving Ireland. I love getting over to Dublin and Belfast and everywhere in Ireland, drinking the Guinness. But I'm a closet Ireland fan to be fair. I think I said it pre-World Cup. You know, they're favourites for me. They're in a great spot. They were in a great spot pre-tournament, and they've just continually got better, I think, throughout the tournament. You know, the massive victory over South Africa in a real physical, brutal encounter kind of set the tone for them. And watching them against Scotland, I'm going to say I've never seen a performance like it against another sort of tier one Six Nations team where they were so clinical. They cut them to ribbons. Attacking wise, they're in great shape. Everyone's an option for Sexton, for Jameson Gibson Park. You know, everyone understands their lines. Even you go to the first try where Tyg Berners just ran a cute little decoy line and stuck a shoulder on a Scottish defender that opens up the hole for Ringrose to go through. They are purring nicely into the quarterfinals. Now, I know some of the Scots and Scottish fans and people tried to put a bit of pressure on them, saying, oh, no, all the pressure's on Ireland. They've never got past a quarterfinal and that same old story. But that was a group game where they dismantled the Scottish, and that it does ramp up this weekend, obviously, against New Zealand in the quarterfinals. Can they break that quarterfinal hoodoo? Everything that they're showing and suggesting, the feeling that you hear coming out the camp and their performances on the field are hugely positive. So from my perspective, it's all systems go for Ireland. The whole country seems to be in Paris for every game as well. The scenes in the stadiums, the post-match sing-song. I think Dundee Aki's trying to claim Zombie is actually they're singing Bundy, but it's just a real brilliant atmosphere. And you know, the relationship, I think, between the fans and the players and what's coming back from the players towards the fans as much as the other way around has just been phenomenal. And, you know, I think they are in the perfect position they want to be going into this quarterfinal. And when you spoke to them before the quarterfinals, when you spoke to them before the World Cup and you're trying to map out which direction they're going in, who they're going to end up playing. If you said, would you rather play France or New Zealand? I think a lot of Irish people said, well, we'd actually rather play New Zealand in the quarterfinals. So they've got what they wanted. They've achieved exactly what they set out to achieve. And here we are, we're heading towards the big games now and the big dance, the finals in a few weeks. And if I was a betting man, which obviously I am with Ladbrokes, I'm putting my money on Ireland to go all the way still.
Donny, do you know what? Like, I was reading a few things there on social media, and Ireland have not led in a Rugby World Cup quarter final since 1995, and it was like 30 minutes into the game. So there's been like over 1,000 minutes of rugby played where Ireland haven't been ahead on the scoreboard in a Rugby World Cup quarter final. And I think even being involved in that 2011 game, we went behind within a few minutes with Shane Williams scoring in the corner. All the chat during the week, as Goody can attest to, is always get off to a good start, make sure and put the opposition on the back foot, and don't give them an easy score. And that's exactly what we did in 2011 was give them an easy start. So yeah, I personally feel that Ireland are in a position now where they believe that they can go on and win the Rugby World Cup. And if you believe that, then you're going to believe that you can win a Rugby World Cup quarter final. And we've said it for I don't know how many years about New Zealand and what they bring to the table, but like, when have we ever said we want to play New Zealand in a Rugby World Cup quarter final? It took us bloody 100 years to beat them, like, for goodness sake. Do you know what I mean? Now all of a sudden we want to play them in a quarter final. It's crazy, but that's where we are as an Irish fan, as an Irish pundit working in the media. It's just huge positivity over here, and I think lastly, there's a firm belief. Like, most importantly, there's a belief that they can go on and do it. You need a little bit of luck as well, of course, throughout a big tournament like this with big games week in and week out. There was 3 or 4 injuries that pulled up after the Scottish game, but they all seem to have come good. And getting into a Rugby World Cup quarter final with a full deck to choose from, a clean bill of health. Like, it's just given us even more confidence as fans and pundits. So yeah, it's going to be an unbelievable game, an unbelievable fixture. It's just a pity that I'm having to work on the England game on the Sunday. Yeah, it's just the media, isn't it? It's just a different narrative to go down during the week to try and get a few more headlines. Goody obviously played for 11 of the 12 clubs in the Gallagher Premiership throughout his career, so he can maybe have a good steer on playing against opposition and former coaches. But yeah, I think the narrative with Joe Schmidt, obviously he was just so successful at Ireland. If he had been a coach that just was in for a few years, didn't actually do that well, and then was out the gate, then I don't think this narrative would have popped up. But because he achieved so much, really put Irish rugby on the map, that all of a sudden people are going, oh well, I wonder if New Zealand are going to have a bit of that genius and a bit of that magic now in their squad, just because Joe Smith's got more of a handle on it. But I don't think so. Even Keith Earls coming out during the week and saying that they're a completely different team. The habits that Joe Smith had them in, they're not in those habits anymore. And I think that speaks volumes for the way the Irish rugby team are playing, the way they're offloading, the way they're willing to take chances, the way they're playing with like a free spirit. Where under Joe, they were just this machine that didn't make any mistakes, that stuck to a game plan. And if the game plan didn't work, you just tried to do it a little bit better. And then against most teams in the world, it came good. But ultimately, when the biggest test for Ireland came about in a Rugby World Cup quarter final, it didn't work. And that's what we're all hoping this weekend on Sunday, that or Saturday, I keep getting my days mixed up, that Ireland can beat New Zealand even with Joe Schmidt on board.
They all got pushed out pretty quickly after the 2015 World Cup without actually understanding how good of coaches they were. Now, from an outsider looking into Irish rugby, the systems that you've got over there, with the pathways, the school systems, the way it works with the individual provinces, and how it's all sort of centrally ran towards a successful Ireland team, is a massive help to him. But I've got no doubt his empathy with players and understanding what went on under Joe Schmidt, and how he's changed the culture and changed the environment, has been a massive benefit. But also the detail, and I remember before there was a bit of pressure on him and Mike Catt when the change first came. People were getting used to how they wanted to see Ireland attack and the changes that were being made, and you're now seeing that come to fruition, really, and seeing how clinical they are in attack, and how free spirited a lot of the players are within a framework. And massive credit's got to go to Andy Farrell. I'm semi devastated that Ireland's two best coaches, or two of the top honchos there, are Mike Catt and Andy Farrell, who I consider strong Englishmen. But they're doing a great job for you over in Ireland, and rightfully so, because the way they got treated by the RFU post 2015 World Cup, and let's not forget, Eddie Jones didn't want them as part of his coaching team. Well, Eddie's made another mistake there, hasn't he? So they're great blokes. Faz is a real down-to-earth guy that wants to do the best by his people, wants to get to know his people and treat them all in ways that, as a coach, you're going to get the best out of them. And he seems to have done that perfectly at the minute in the Ireland sort of framework and culture that he's created. And it seems a very happy camp, and you can only pat him on the back for that. But he won't want it to be about him. He'll want it to be about the team winning this weekend and just getting another notch towards a World Cup final. The last thing that he'll be thinking about is pats on the back for what he's created. You only create something good if you go on and win it. And I think ultimately that's his aim.
Yeah, well, I think in that game against France, it was tight for a large period of time in that game, and then there was a yellow card, and France, unleashed their bench as well, and then they obviously finished the game really, really strong. And New Zealand have probably made their team stronger as well, with a few key guys to come back. We're not sure if Lomax is going to be fit to play to start. I know he has an MCL injury, obviously went off in the last game, and he's a big player for them. But it's not the same New Zealand, Donny, you're right. It's not the same New Zealand as years gone by. When I'm talking about Kieran Reid, Jerome Kano, Richie McCaw, Dan Carter, Mills Muliaina, Man Nonu, just guys that were played 9 out of 10 every single time they put on the All Blacks jersey. Where even now, I think, and Goody might agree with me or disagree with me on this point, is like Sam Keane is their captain, and he doesn't seem to be playing that well. And Papali'i, who's been on the bench, and when he does get an opportunity, he's playing better than him. But yeah, they'll probably still go with Sam Keane just because he's the captain. That almost feels like the wrong. It's almost a bit like the English team at the minute.
I was going to say,
just he needs to be picked just because he is the captain. But if you're going to go on and win a Rugby World Cup, you got to pick the best team in form that's available. And for me, New Zealand are just a bit sketchy around that.
Yeah, I think they've got some world-class players. Rico Ioane in the backs, Moanga at 10 can be a worldie on his day. Ardi Severa at number 8, or if he plays at 6, depending on that balance, the back row is one of the best in the world. So they have got world-class operators. Will Jordan scores tries for fun, but is he, is he someone that makes errors when the ball goes behind him? Possibly. They just haven't fully found their identity. Yeah, they're going to be dangerous. They've got some unbelievable runners, but I think that the power of their tight 5 isn't what it has been previously. When you list off some of the names before that, the issue in the back row around you picking your captain who's not performing at the level of being an All Black, let alone an All Black captain, and that knock-on effect then throughout the team is pretty pretty big around that. So for me, listen, New Zealand are going to have their moments. The haka will come. I'll be really interested to see, and maybe Stephen, you can answer this. What are the Irish fans planning around the haka? Is it a silent respect? Is it the river dance? Because we've seen what's gone out on social media around what they should do. But it'd be really interesting. Is it going to be a load of noise? Because sometimes it's more off-putting when there's pure silence for some players than actual noise of the opposition fans going at them. So, and the emotion of the Irish with a few Guinness inside them, I think they'll be raring to go, right?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because a few of my friends, a couple of colleagues as well, were over in the Stade de France for the Scottish game, Ireland-Scottish game, and they said it was like 75-25 split in terms of the fans. And again, the Ireland versus South Africa game, it was something similar earlier on in the group. So I think even the French will be cheering on the Irish in this game. This will feel like a home game for Ireland this weekend. It really will. So I think the fans will not give two hoots. It'll almost be like, everybody talks about showing the haka and showing the Kiwis respect when it comes to the haka, but I think that should only apply to the players that are facing it, who are actually the war dance that is there, and when you stand in front of it, as long as you respect it, that's no problem. I have no problem at all with the fans singing or cheering zombie or whatever they want to do. And I actually think that the Irish fans will try and drown out the noise of the haka. I know it's started to become a bit more of a dance for the television with the speakers and everything put beside them. The cameras are in and everybody at home's loving to tune in and hear the haka. But I honestly think these Irish fans are going to go berserk. They're going to go berserk and try and drown it out and try and antagonize these Kiwis as much as possible to let them know that there's going to be a full house in the Stade de France. It's going to be right behind Ireland.
What are they going with? Are they going with Zombie, or are they going with Fields of Athenry?
Flip, goodness knows what they'll go with, but yeah, the late kickoffs in France are pretty good, aren't they? Everybody's bubbling nicely for kickoff. So yeah, I'm just unfortunate I can't be there to kind of witness it, and hopefully, I know there's a big build up to this game, Goody, like in terms of the expectation levels. So like everybody's talking about this, this could be a Rugby World Cup final, but I hope both teams continue to play and they don't try and just cancel each other out. Lots of kicking, just waiting for the opposition to make a little mistake. I really hope both teams go out and express themselves. And as you rightly said about New Zealand, if you kick in behind them, they can be vulnerable quite a bit. So yeah, it's going to be an intriguing fixture and hopefully one that Ireland can get the win over New Zealand.
Yeah, I've probably done a bit of sledging, but I was probably on the end of more sledging than I gave out because of the state of me when I played. But yeah, listen, I love Peter O'Mahony. I love his aggression. He got into the Scots as well, didn't he? I think he said some words to Duran van der Merwe about not being good enough for the Springboks. Going after Sam Cane as well. Yeah, I mean that's what gets him going, and he plays his best at times when he is at that level and he is that emotionally charged with it all. So will the All Blacks be using it as a tool? I don't think they'll necessarily. I think Sam Cane will remember it in his head, because once someone says something to you like that that's got such press and coverage, then you do remember it. But I don't think it kind of changes his performance. He'll just be trying to smash Peter O'Mahony when he gets the ball, or we'll just try and have an all-encompassing game around the breakdown, because that breakdown battle is going to be huge. Van der Fleer coming up against Sam Cane, probably O'Mahony doing bits as well. So he'll be targeting him to clear him out in a strong legal way. But I don't think it will be a little reminder in his own head, but I don't think across the board the All Blacks will be talking about it. But no doubt Peter O'Mahony has got some more lines for this weekend because I love him.
Yeah, well, all I have to do to understand where England currently are is read Andy Goode's Twitter account. Like every 20 minutes, he gives me an update on what the state of English rugby is. So
we're in the quarters,
Goody's
mate.
always
That's all that counts now. We're in the
yeah,
quarterfinals.
you're worth a follow for sure. But yeah, like I think as soon as they went with that axis and tried to play a little bit more rugby against Samoa, like they were found out, and Samoa probably deserved to win that game by a score or two. And they looked nervous. They looked short of ideas. Granted, they scored one good try with a little bit of magic, but the Samoan defense shot up and went into no man's land. So you got to question that as well. But yeah, I just think England are at a point where it's just get the next result, get the next victory, get the next victory, get the fans back on side, get everybody believing in this coaching group. But that's all well and good until you lose. And then everybody goes, well, you're never going to win a Rugby World Cup playing with that brand of rugby. Well, we all know that. We all know that that's not going to, win your Rugby World Cup. You never know. They might prove me wrong. If they do, fair play to them. But I think the majority of people that understand the game knows that the way that England are currently playing isn't going to, make them lift the Webb Ella. So as it currently stands, brilliant. Everybody in English rugby feels that they're still in with a chance. Even get this semi-final. Goodness knows what can happen. But the brand of rugby, the style of rugby, like everybody talks about success and how to get to success. Well, studying, learning, but most importantly, you got to love what you do. And it looks like the English players aren't loving what they're doing on the pitch. It just looks like they're going through the motions an awful lot. Like, who's going to love chasing kicks for 80 minutes? You tell me, Manu, is that right? My head's gone. Is going to chase kicks.
Manu Tuilagi.
Yeah, going to chase kicks 24/7 all day long and enjoy that? Absolutely not. He wants to get ball in hand. He wants to beat people. He wants to get up in defence and make good reads and not just be chasing kicks. And it's just very, very difficult to watch. And all I can say at the minute is, thank goodness I'm not an English fan. I was actually at an event last night, the other night, and they were saying to me, a couple of English guys were like, we actually love watching Ireland. We're getting so involved in these Irish games because of the way that they're playing. It was like, oh, I know we don't like Scotland anyway, but I'll tell you what, like these Irish boys, the way they're playing, like it's amazing. So like it's good you're on the ground in England. Like there's more people probably talking about how good Ireland are playing rather than England and what's next around the corner for them.
Yeah, 100%. Like from an English fan's perspective, which is what I am, I want England to win the World Cup, of course I do. But if England don't win it, I want Ireland to win it, and I'll say that now. But every England fan is underwhelmed massively. There's people spending a load of money to get out to France, the tickets, staying over, the food, everything. It costs a lot of money to anyone, and obviously the way the world is at the minute, it puts even more strain on things. But then to see the performances that are put out there, and the only sort of thing I can grasp onto around England's performance last weekend against Samoa is we'd already won the group. So your emotional juices aren't flowing perhaps as much. We knew we were either going to play Fiji or Australia in that quarterfinal. And there was no jeopardy on the result for us, really. So Jamie George has spoken about this week. The energy levels were down last week. But it is tough to support England. We're supporting them, but it's tough to be encouraged by how we're playing because it's like we've rewound the clock to the 90s in how we're playing. And you watch Ireland play, and even to a certain extent, you watch how Scotland try and play the game. And, they chuck the kitchen sink at Ireland a few times by chucking the ball around, and it's something you can get behind. But England have just got this risk-adverse, kick it, driving maul, don't play any rugby in your own half and hope that the opposition make a mistake. That's their mentality, which, as you said, mate, doesn't win you World Cups, but will get you through a certain amount of games until you come up against one of the top teams like a South Africa or a France in the semi-final if we get there, or possibly like a Fiji this weekend, because Fiji are very dangerous. We've seen what they can do throughout the World Cup, but they've also got a very un-Fijian-like way of playing in terms of their game management as well. So they're trying to marry their Fijian brilliance and power and offloading game with control and game management, which makes them a serious threat to England this weekend. The whole Ford Farrell axis, I hope, has been finally parked. From what I'm hearing, Ford probably misses out and he's on the bench and Farrell starts at 10. Whether I agree with that or not, I don't know, because Farrell's performance, and it's the same as Sam Cane, he's England captain. Everyone talks about he's an inspirational leader. He broke Johnny Wilkinson's points record last weekend. But the reality of it is he's not performed well enough to even wear an England shirt or necessarily be captain. So Steve Borthwick makes the big decision to make him captain and then backs his captain, which you kind of admire, but he's doing it, I think, to the detriment of the team. George Ford came in and played exceptionally well in the first few games while Farrell was banned, and Farrell's shadow sort of hangs over George Ford when he pushes him out to 12, and Farrell plays at 12. So I think we're going to see Farrell at 10. I've heard we're going to see Marcus Smith start the game at fullback, which is very unlike Steve Borthwick from a risk point of view. But I'm still questioning whether that will go ahead. But England have got to change the way they play. They've got to play with more tempo, more pace at the breakdown, more ferocity at the breakdown to create quick ball like Ireland do. Because if we go toe-to-toe physically with Fiji, we come off second best. We tried that in August at Twickenham and we lost by playing a dull game. And hopefully Steve's learned from that and we, do what Portugal did to Fiji by putting some width on the ball. You're shifting big men around and you're creating holes and spaces off the back of fatigue. And England haven't shown any of that desire throughout the World Cup yet. We haven't needed to, but hopefully that changes this weekend.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see 4 Northern Hemisphere teams in the semi-final, but I just think that this South Africa France game is huge. Like, it's absolutely huge, and I feel that there is going to be a bit of an upset somewhere in this. Now, is South Africa beating France an upset? Like, there's only 2 points or something on the handicap, so it's not that big upset. But it just feels that it would be a huge upset because France are the host nation. The quarterfinal against South Africa. So I'm actually tipping South Africa to beat France this weekend. And I said at the start of the tournament, and for Ireland to meet South Africa again in a Rugby World Cup final. So that's the way I'm going to go. I think Wales beat Argentina. And I just think Fiji, the way that it's almost like they've regressed a little bit over the last few weeks. Again, down to some players not being available, change in selection. We know there's been a little bit of adversity for some of the players in the squad. I think Bernard Jackman was telling me that there's been a few Cava parties over the last couple of weeks as well when they knew they were sort of qualified even before the Portugal game, even though it did get a bit touchy, didn't it, before the end of it. So yeah, I think we'll see a different Fiji this weekend, and hopefully they'll put it up to England. But I just feel that England will have just a little bit more somewhere. I don't. They haven't shown me it, but I just feel that they will. They will emotionally get up for this game, and beat Fiji. Get after their set piece. So I'm going to go Fiji, Wales, South Africa, and of course Ireland.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent with Stephen Ferris. I think Ireland beat New Zealand. It's kind of set in the stars that they're going to progress through to the semis and then the final, and then they're probably going to lose to England in the final. I'm joking. I think England beat Fiji. A lot of World Cup experience. These big time players, the likes of Jamie Georgiou and Farrell, Maratoji, we've seen nothing of him during the World Cup so far. Some big name players need to step up, and that experience will drag them through with that game. I'm actually going to back Argentina to beat Wales, which might surprise a few people. Argentina started the World Cup in absolutely horrendous shape. They were awful against England, but they've got progressively better throughout the World Cup. So I'm going to pick them just to do Wales by 3 points. South Africa, Ireland, really tough to call. South Africa, France, really tough to call. But I'm going to go with the big South Africans. I've got a mate that I saw this morning for a coffee. He's convinced South Africans' power is going to pull through. Depends on whether they go Lebok at 10 or Andre Pollard. I've got a feeling they're going to go Lebok with Pollard on the bench. But that experience of winning the World Cup 4 years ago, the pressure on France, the question mark around Dupont. Yes, he's back in the mix. But I'm playing with a face that's been smashed a few weeks ago. Are we going to see the best Dupont in action? I'm going to go South Africa by 4 points in that game. So I'm going for wins for Ireland, South Africa, England, and Argentina. And then hopefully Stevie Ferris will see Ireland against England in the final.